guess I'll get Mary to rewrite my CV when this is done, because I wouldn't have done as good a job myself. I suppose, look, just to start off, echoing what Mary said, I went back. I originally started out working in radio and Clare FM back in 1999. Took a break, took a different direction in my career, and ended up coming back full circle in 2014 when I finished the masters here. And you know, like a lot of you guys, when you get out of college, it's hard to know where to start to look for work. It's hard to know, I suppose, what you need. The skills that you get from the course when you come out of here will only take you so far, because when you get thrown into that, most of you won't come out of here into full-time roles. You'll be kind of scratching around and looking, trying to find freelance work, bits and pieces that can build a portfolio, or that can, you know, kind of get your foot in the door in several different places before something will give. But it's, I suppose, it's just a case of really, you know, sticking to your guns and being persistent. I suppose when I came out of here after finishing the course, it's kind of ground zero, and that nobody really prepares you for, you know, what do you do next. Everybody can prepare you for the course, everybody can prepare you for exams, projects. You kind of get all the help you need going through college with that, from lectures, tutorials, all that sort of stuff. But when you get out there, you're still stuck in the student mindset, in that you don't really see yourself as a journalist, because, you know, some of you will have gotten part-time work while you're in college, most of you, a lot of you won't. And I suppose it's a kind of combination of being confident enough to pitch for work, and at the same time having the skills and the equipment to carry out those jobs. So when I did leave here, it was I started doing kind of match reports for the Limerick Leader. It was a good experience. It wasn't very well paid, but it was a start. So, you know, I got to do schools rugby games, soccer games, GAA games all over the summer. I had other work as well outside of media that just kind of kept things ticking along, and it was kind of a year later that I kind of sent Mary an email going, Jesus, I can't get work in this thing, like what am I going to do? So in fairness, it was a couple of weeks later that I kind of got a break from Live 95 FM, or Live 95 FM as they're now known after their rebrand, about a part-time position as a newsreader. So I took that, and almost like buses, you wait for one, nothing comes, and then two come along at once. Within another couple of weeks, I got another call from Sporting Limerick, or the company that owned the brand Sporting Limerick. So I had two kind of part-time roles then. One was as the newsreader and news journalist with Live 95, and the other was as the sports guy, the only guy really with Sporting Limerick, because it was literally a brand. Everybody knew that Sporting Limerick was the brand on the Limerick GAA jerseys, but outside of that, it didn't really stand for anything. There was no website, there was no Facebook page, it was just literally the brand that was on the jerseys. So it meant nothing. So when I got called in there, the idea was they basically wanted to know what could they make of the brand. So I said, okay, look, it's really recognisable. We're in the front of, you know, two sets of jerseys that get a lot of exposure during the summer from the hurlers and from the footballers. And I said, look, it's a sporting brand. We have in Limerick, we have Munster Rugby. We have a reasonably successful GAA county. You consider all the underage. We've got a League of Ireland soccer team, and we've got plenty of club rugby. So, like, Limerick does have that kind of the numbers across the three main sports to justify having its own kind of digital sports platform. So we decided that we'd set to work about achieving that. It was myself, George Lee, who is you can see there, the Innovation Hub. That's the Limerick Enterprise Development Partnership. They're the owners of the brand Sporting Limerick. So myself and George kind of sat down and said, look, we'll start with a Facebook page. We'll start with you know, creating our own Twitter accounts and securing all the social media handles and platforms that we needed to. So we just went bit by bit, and then we took on two co-op students from UL. None of them from journalism courses. We took on one from English and New Media, and one from English and Sociology. So we had two people in there, but the key for us was that they were both very sports oriented. They loved sports. One was played football with Mayo, and the other was locally based here, played soccer and football in Limerick. So the key for us, for anybody in for sports journalism, but not necessarily that you came from the discipline, but that you had an interest in what it is you were writing about, and you had an interest in what it is you were going to be covering every day. So we took those two on, and then, let's say, that meant that we could start sending them to events like schools rugby matches that were out here in UL. Like UL hosts a lot of the schools games over in the 4G. We could send them to the Fitzgibbon and the Sigerson games, because you had LIT, Mary UL were all involved in those, so it meant they didn't have to do much. So we kind of started off, like I said, with the Facebook page, then with 2 co-ops, then covering the more local events, and I suppose we then said, okay, what we were doing initially, we were just putting these reports up on Facebook and social media. So the next step then was to sit down and design a website. So we sat down, and didn't design this one, we designed another one, which was our website that we started off with, and it was a lot different to this. That website was literally where we put up all our articles for the first 2 years, and we just focused on getting content, match reports, all that sort of stuff. But when we got into that stage after the first kind of 2 years, we decided that we needed to everybody does match reports. We found everybody does match reports, everybody does score updates. So we kind of sat down and said, look, if we want this to be viable, if we want this to be successful, or to offer any kind of route to employment to anybody outside of myself or the 2 guys we had with us on co-op, then we have to do something a little bit different. So we said, okay, we would, if you looked at our page and you looked at the Limerick Leader page, the Limerick Leader is a print organisation. We were online, but we weren't offering anything different to what they were offering. Match reports, text, very, very text focused, pictures okay, but no real digital content. So we were saying that, okay, we're digital, they're print. If we want to be digital, then we need to start producing digital content, audio, video, and less of a focus on text, less of a focus on print. One of the major problems that we had when we started off the website was photographs, photographs and copyright from all the games. Because I don't know if any of you have worked for a website, but if you've worked for Gillian, she'll tell you that you have to be very careful where you take photos from, especially with copyrights. Because say if you take a photo from some photographer that's at a match and you don't have rights to use that image, he's entitled to get payment for that. So we had to go and set up an info account with the sports agency. So they gave us I think it's 60 or 70 images a week, and it's like €800 a month. So that was one of the key things that we had to get the website off the ground, because what we found is that if it wasn't visually appealing, if there wasn't a proper photograph, if it was let's say a specific try or a specific goal or a specific incident in the match, if we didn't have a photograph for that part of the article, then it didn't get any traction. So that was kind of that stage. We brought it from Facebook page and just basic content to website, and then we needed to increase the visual profile of it. So we kind of did that from about 2015, 16, 17. Then last year we decided, okay, we've kind of done a lot of stuff on that end. So we decided to do again more of stuff like with Munster Rugby. So every Monday we go out to the Munster Rugby press conferences, and if you look at our video content, it will show you that all our updated video content. So we get all the pre-match press conference stuff from the Munster Rugby and their 2 players. We'll also get the post-match stuff. So again, if we're sending a journalist to a match, we're not really bothered about the match report, because you can sit there and you can sit there in Thome Park or in the Gaelic grounds and you can write a really good, what you think is a fantastic match report. Most people will either be following it on Twitter, Air Sports will have score updates with video, RTE will do the same. The match report really, at the end of the game, think about it. If you're presented with a 500-word match report, or you're presented with a 3-minute video clip of the highlights of the game, which one you're more likely to go with? Most of you, from our experience, most people will just go with the video. So what we do now with our journalists when we send them to matches is that we want them to sit, watch the match and analyse it. So analyse the match for trends, analyse the match for tactical stuff. Analyse, what players are playing well, who's playing well out of position, who's playing well in position. Because we don't care about the match report. We want them. They'll have a match report done at the final whistle. It'll be short. It'll include the highlights of the match in it, and it'll be a watch post. So straight away when that goes up on our social media platforms and on our website, you will know that when you see it, watch. This will be the first thing you'll read. You'll know that this is a video post. So you're not going to land in there and it's got this big long text thing where you're going to kind of get put off by it. So I suppose, look, that's what we have. What we kind of get our journalists to do is to think of themselves as digital rather than just print. All of our journalists, when they go to matches, they'll have their iPhone, they'll have a tripod, they'll have a Rode microphone with an iRig that connects to their phone that will ensure that they've got broadcast quality audio and video. They'll have a little handheld tripod for areas like smaller, sometimes the press conferences, especially for the GAA, there's no structure. So it's literally a huddle around the manager and the players. So you're not going to get away with a tripod like this. You literally just have to hold the camera on the stick. For the other ones,
when you get a chance, maybe after this, see, they're all going to have to buy some of this equipment.
Yeah.
And you were telling me earlier on that a lot of it can be bought quite cheaply.
Yeah.
You said you can kind of set yourself up. I know €300 might sound an awful lot, but maybe down in a little while you might show them what they actually need.
Yeah.
Because what Raf is saying is that you should be trying to invest and build up, this little bit of equipment for yourselves that you can literally put it in a small little sack, isn't it like that?
Yeah. Like with like I was saying to Mary, the whole point of it is that you can literally, especially when you're freelancing. So when you come out of college, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into just being a print journalist. The same way you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into being, just radio, just online, or just digital. You can, if you can write, that's kind of the key starting point. Then, if you can shoot video, which all of you have smartphones at this stage, I'm sure you know how to shoot video. It's about combining and marrying those kind of skills. And again, I suppose for your own point of view, when you come out of college, when you head into the work environment, you won't always be provided with you won't be provided with a work laptop, you won't be provided with a work microphone. It's kind of up to yourselves to kind of have those items in your own bag ready to go. And anything that can allow you to stand out from the crowd in that respect. If an employer sees that you've had the initiative to go away, to buy your own tripod, to buy your own microphone, number one, it shows that you're committed to working in the environment. And number two, it shows that you've, obviously if you've bought them, you've more than likely done quite a bit of content, created quite a bit of content with them. So it means that you have a portfolio. And I think that when you're coming into the workplace, it's great having a 1-1, but if you want to set yourself apart, then having that bit of experience, regardless whether it's paid or not, is crucial, and it does help set people apart when they come out. But look, I'll just go through some of the figures. Since at the start of last year, we kind of sat down and we had a meeting about how we would improve our GAA content, and we got Limerick GAA to agree to do weekly press briefings with us. So they were the only county that were doing kind of video structured press briefings with us every week during the championship. So we go in on a Tuesday night into the Gaelic grounds, we get John Kiley, we get 2 or 3 players, we'd ask all the questions, and then we'd use that, we'd break those up into stories and drip feed them out between the Tuesday night and the match on the Sunday. So we got to do that every week. Number one, it built trust between us and Limerick GAA, and it helped to kind of put the hurling championship foremost in the media, the local media, in the run up to the All-Ireland final, in the run up to the summer. So let's say as we progressed with that, Limerick GAA actually invited us to go to the All-Ireland final. So on the day of the All-Ireland final, we had kind of approached them about doing a DVD, and you should be very careful because GAA people are very suspicious about anything when you start saying, approaching them about doing any sort of documentary about their team or doing any sort of,
Sorry, Raf, just before you go on, there's people from outside Ireland here, and they probably don't understand I just explained to you, the GAA is the Irish, it's the Gaelic football and hurling. And the championship that Raf is going to go on to talk about is like the biggest competition we have in the country for this sport, hurling. And it's terrible, I have to explain this, isn't it? But Limerick, the county we are in, we won it last September. It was a big thing because how many years was it since we won it?
45.
45 years. So it'll be like, if you're from America, it's like what you call the big thing.
Super Bowl.
It's like the Super Bowl, okay, but it's not that. It's a big competition. So what Raf is trying to explain is that they got kind of exclusive access to these players, which was really important when they won the big competition.
Yeah.
So just so that you understand what he's talking about.
So
Sorry, Raf.
No,
Because they're from Denmark and Sweden and they don't know what the GAA is. Yeah.
We got to use our accreditations to go to the All-Ireland final. So what we did was we approached them about installing hidden cameras in the team bus on the way to the match. So we said if we ask for permission for this, we're never going to get it. So we just put the hidden camera in the dash of the bus, and it just filmed. We had one camera going backwards into the bus, so you got all the interaction between the players, and we had one camera facing forward into the crowd. So you got the whole entire journey from City West Hotel to Croke Park that morning. So we made an agreement that if they won, we'd use the footage, and if they lost, we'd delete it. So we were sitting above in the stand and we were waiting for the game. You know, as you know, we were 8 points up, thought we were going to, be comfortable, and then it came down to that free at the end. So I had one guy who was writing the match report and hoping that it didn't change, so he wouldn't have to change his ending. And as soon as it went final whistle, we literally ran downstairs. We got handed our camera because the kit man brought in our equipment. We got handed our camera and we got into the dressing room. So we had all the footage from inside the dressing room. We got to shoot all that. We got to go on the bus from Croke Park back to the City West Hotel. And then I suppose we got all the footage from the homecoming, and we kind of set about putting together the compilation of the documentary for the season. So kind of this started off like really, really small, and kind of like with every kind of year that went on, and with every little step that we took, we kind of got that little bit more credibility, and that little bit more, that little bit more progression. You know, as well last year, I know since I left, there's a broadcasting module that has.
There is, yeah. They'll be doing TV packages shortly now, yeah.
There was a broadcasting module. So I'll just show you. This is, I don't know if this is play, but if there's any volume on it. So that was.
This is the manager of the team, the Limerick team that won, being interviewed. I know that even. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's muted on the computer.
Is it muted on the computer? No, it's not.
Down at the bottom.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, you're right.
Putting something like that over, and then the free is blowing, and sure, Joe Kelly sending over it all day, or kind of saying this is going straight over the bar, That's the other side, drop short, and it could have hopped anywhere. It could have hopped into Conor Whelan's hand and could have buried it in the back of the net.
I suppose your thoughts are, first of all, you're looking down and first sitting right. really down to the wire.
I was standing under the crossbar, just sitting right. Like, there was 78 minutes gone, like, there wasn't much more I could really do, like.
But it was a fair distance out, like, so you knew we need to get it off and slap, like, we wanted to get it over.
And this is definitely it. No, there was 8 minutes. I think that the Limerick crowd are going to be questioning James Owens for playing 40-45 seconds, but there was another injury after that.
We had somebody in the gaming grounds who was filming the crowd reaction there.
And even for him, it's on the edge of the distance that he can strike it. Here it comes. The sliotar is flying in. It's dropping inside the large rectangle. Limerick have it. They come forward.
So it was dropping and everybody was after it, and then it pops up then and Tom snaps it. And by God was I was so happy to see Tom snap that, and to be fair to him, like, he was going out and that was it, like, he put the afterburners on and hit the road, and Jesus, I was saying Tom Rowan, it was Rowan out that way, and then he gave it to Tom Marcy, and then there was bedlam then for a few minutes. That minute or minute and a half is probably so vivid for everybody.
So that's just a few snippets of what we did for that DVD. It was a massive success for us, and again, like I said, it kind of brought us a huge amount of credibility. We ended up going to Boston with them, with Limerick GA. This was the
an amazing journey. We had lots and lots of building steps where we gambled and we pushed and we trusted in the players all year.
So that was the kind of the behind the scenes speech that we got from John Kiley in the bus. And you've no idea the amount of persuasion it took for me to get him to leave that in. I remember we had a deadline for production of 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, and I was talking to him at 2 o'clock on the Tuesday night, the night before, to kind of convince him to leave it in.
Yeah, just to explain again to the people not from Ireland, what Rafa's talking about here is his company had the rights to make the only video on this big win, Limerick's win on the match. So like there was a huge demand for it, wasn't there?
Yeah,
and they got the rights, and some of you might know who these people that are on the interview, but there's one man there called JP McManus who never talks to the press, and he got an interview with him because he was supporting Limerick and putting a lot of money into it. But what he's trying to explain to you was they were up against a tight deadline to produce this video in time for the Christmas market, wasn't it? Yeah, so, and like, that thing he's showing you in the bus, nobody else had that footage because they had the camera in there. So what he's trying to explain to you is you need to be a bit innovative if you want to get shots
cheeky.
Cheeky, I suppose, yeah.
Stick your neck out, and even if if you're not sure if you'll be able to do it, say you will, within reason. If I'm not saying to claim you're a genius. This was You've no idea how long it took us to get from Croke back home. Every green light on the way home.
It's just been an amazing journey.
People stopped and it was crazy. But one of the other things we did last year as well is we started live streaming. So for any of you who have an interest in broadcasting, that was kind of a massive step forward for us again. In that we got camera equipment. We had to get software upgrades. We had to get a sound desk for commentators. So basically, if you're doing radio commentary on one of these matches, it's basically your ISDN line, your mixer, your microphone, and yourself and your co-commentator. But when you're adding visual aspect to it, then you're looking at stuff like you're going to need one guy to monitor the software, monitor the feed, just to make sure that the picture going out is good. You're going to get another guy on the camera. The guy in the feed also manages the scoreboard and the clock on the game. So if you think of in-game graphics, if there's a yellow card in rugby, you need to have a 10-minute counting down clock. If it's GAA, you need to have graphics for black cards, all that sort of stuff. So that's two on the kind of technical and the camera side of it. And then you have a commentator, and if the game is big enough, you'd have two co-commentators. So it's 5 people. So we did a lot of the Limerick Championship games last year. Again, massive success on those. Our match content last year for the Limerick, and this is, bear in mind, this is just a local championship. 1.4 million watched minutes of our live streamed GAA content last year, just in Limerick. So, part of our kind of value proposition going forward is trying to get somebody to go to advertisers with that and say, look, here's how many minutes your message was in front of people who were watching our content last year. The beauty about the online part of this is that it's very hard for a radio station or for a newspaper to say who exactly is watching or who's exactly consuming their content. With this it isn't, because all of our content is viewed through either Vimeo or YouTube. With all of those programs, you'll either be watching them through Facebook or through another social media platform, or through Gmail or Google account, which means that we get the exact demographics of who's watching our content. So I can tell you that our streaming sports, our live sports content is 85% males between the ages of 24 and 44. So again, that gives you something to go to an advertiser with. You know, if you're looking to kind of create value going forward. How many of you have worked or have done part-time work during your course?
Yeah, just put up your hands there. So just tell us about it. Rebecca, what have you done?
I worked in PR.
In PR?
Yeah, but, yeah. Anyone done work in broadcasting or a radio station or anything like that? Yeah, sorry, what's your name again?
Mia?
Yeah, just explain to us where you're from. Just tell Raffaela where you're from.
I'm from Denmark, and back home I did 18 months of TV journalism, also as video journalist. So,
Okay. And what kind of work did you do?
mostly news, so for like our local news station, and then digital for our webpage, so news there too, so both written and TV.
And I suppose from like, do all of you intend on working in journalism when you come out of the course, or working in media? Yeah. And how many do you have blogs, or do you kind of, you know what I'm saying, do you create content yourselves, even if it's whether it's paid or unpaid, to kind of to keep your skills and to kind of show that you can produce content regularly?
So how many of you have blogs, or what do you have, Holly? What do you do?
Well, a couple of years ago I used to do a YouTube channel between like travelling abroad and stuff like that, just capturing places to go. And then my blog was kind of, for a while it was sort of like personal experience and things like that, and then instead I decided to change it more to like stories of human interest. I haven't written in it now in a while because this year is quite busy, but I intend on going back to it.
Did you do the video yourself for YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
See, all those things to.
And just a few more, sorry, Raf. Who else did stuff? What did you do? Ashley, what did you do?
I did my co-op in the Limerick magazine because I've been running my own blog since first year, and I make sure
Very
to
good.
get a post up every single week.
Say again?
I make sure to get at least one blog post up every single week.
Okay, yeah. Anyone do video stuff? Anyone put up any video? Ashley, what have you done? Younger Ashley?
I do some video. I just enjoy like video editing, but I've done it since like I was a teenager. So
Yeah.
Like anything that you can be doing like that. And let's say, are any of you interested in sports in particular? Yeah, this guy's down here. Yeah. Like like I said to you, the way it's gone now, is that it's not just enough, and I'm sure it's the same in news. That like if you're a radio station, you really have to, like, you're working with Live 95. If you're a radio station, have to see yourself as being a digital platform as well. You're not just radio. With newspapers, it's the same. You can't afford to just view yourself as a newspaper anymore. You have to kind of view yourself as being, part of the digital world, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, well, they all know that, that you have to be able to produce your own podcasts and videos. Would you just, I know this might sound like a bit of housekeeping, would you just show them some of the equipment you showed me earlier on that you have,
Yeah.
or just to give you a practical idea? I know this sounds really basic, but these are things that you all need to be building up yourselves. Because even if you go to work in media companies, Rafa, you were saying to me that some of them expect you to have your own, don't they?
Yeah, most of them will. Most of them will expect you to have your own microphones, your own kind of setup. So I just got. If you look at this just looks like a simple clamp. I forgot the rest part of it, but let's say when we do the Munster Rugby press conferences, I have a little Manfrotto clamp here for the iPhone. So rather than having to take a big tripod, I can just go onto the table, click that in, and my camera stays still. I don't have to hold it.
And you do most of your stuff. You can do most of your stuff on the phone, don't you?
Yeah, we kind of, our cameras, our big Canon cameras, we just use for the streaming. But for the rest of the stuff, I use the Filmic Pro app on my phone, and I record all the press conferences, all the post-match stuff. All was on my phone, and we get all the content off of that. Another crucial piece of equipment is this little thing here. It's called an iRig. So this little piece of equipment comes with a little connection that goes into here, so that a lot of the time if you're recording on your phone, the audio won't be broadcast quality. It just won't be good enough. Radio stations wouldn't really use it because it'd be tinny, it'd be echoey. So you'll get what's called the iRig. So there's a little IXLR. If you look at this end of it, it's a little connection there that goes into a cable which connects to a professional microphone. And what it means is that you can now go out and it'll just, if you want to record audio, there's a free software app that comes with it, and it can just record simple audio. If you want to record video, you can just simply open up your video app on your iPhone or your Android, hit record, and instead of using once it's connected to the phone, instead of using the inbuilt phone camera, it'll just use this, which will ensure that you've professional quality audio and video. So again, these are just small little bits of equipment that can make a massive difference.
And they're not that dear, like that's €45, is it? Do you get most of these on Amazon, is it? Or?
Yeah, most of these you get on Amazon. I'll just show you now there's another one.
So I think really the idea is to try and build it up, over a year or so. Find a few of these.
This is just a Manfrotto tripod. You can see there, it can fold in like that, so that if you want to hold it handheld, those little things just fold in and you can hold it like that. You get a little phone clamp that just screws onto the top of it, and away you go. There it is. Yeah. So again, you can see that's what the setup looks like. So there you have
very good, yeah.
You have your tripod, you have your clamp. And again, this is adjustable, so you can use it for different size phones. And if you need it, you can actually get a little lighting mount that will go into the top of this. Now again, that can be very handy if you're at. Most phones actually will have a light if they're recording in dark environments now anyway. So it's really good if there's a night match and you're going down to do your post-match press conference, because you would most likely be doing it on the field. There won't be lighting there. If you're using your camera without lights, the image will be quite dull. This will come on and it'll kind of illuminate the person, because you'll usually be kind of doing it pretty close. So it'll illuminate the person you're interviewing. So again, the longer clamp, this here, these two items, the Rode Reporter microphone is another really good piece of equipment. This is the one here. And again, this is what's called a dynamic microphone. So it's dynamic and omnidirectional insofar as that wherever direction this is pointing, it records in that direction. So it's perfect for you over and back between two people. So again, it's also important to make sure that you're buying the right type of microphone. Some microphones, like condenser microphones, are really good, but they're only working in rooms that are kind of studio treated rooms. Otherwise, you get sound bouncing off of everywhere. So the fact that this is a dynamic microphone means that it will just literally go in the kind of both directions over and back. So that's another piece of really good equipment. And as you can see, it's 112 sterling. It's not cheap, but they last. And again, if you go into a radio station and they say, "Can you go out and record a press conference?" With that, again, comes with a little app. So you just record in audio with no video, or you can record with video as well. And again, it connects up through this.
Even all the print media now, where the jobs are coming up, is they want people, because a lot of the older journalists aren't digitally savvy. So what they're looking for in graduates coming out is that you're able to add value to their paper, and exactly what Raf is doing here for his website, they want you to do for their website. Like, okay, we're talking about sport here, but they want you to video. Will you send me a list of that? That'll be great.
I'll send you a list of these. And again, as well, like, if you're when you come out of college, like, it's it's unlikely that you're going to walk into a full-time job anywhere. So what you really kind of need to get doing or to get cracking on is to try and pitch for work. So, you know, if you're living in Cork, start looking for local newspapers or wherever it is you're based. And what employers really like to hear as well is that they like to know that you know what they do. So if it's Sporting Limerick and somebody rings me looking for a job, first thing I'll ask them is, so what do you know about us? And if they don't know that we do podcasts 3 times a week, or if they don't know that we do, you know, matches, it kind of shows that, number one, they're looking for a job but they haven't bothered to research us. So anywhere that you are looking for a job or that you are looking for work, make sure that you know as much as you possibly can about what they're currently doing. Don't go in there telling them what they should do, but go in with ideas as well. That's another crucial factor. If you're trying to get work, go to them with ideas, pitch them stories, show that you can take a bit of initiative and that you can kind of, that you can kind of think for yourself. That's key as well. Try not to be too sensitive.
Yes, that's true.
If you can.
Be sensitive. Yeah.
I've worked in a newsroom where there's been deadlines and where 1 o'clock is approaching and there's a reporter out in the field who has sent you audio and there's a problem with the audio file and you have to resend it and you have to edit it, and sometimes stories break on air and sometimes you're going to get effed out of it and sometimes you're going to get chewed out of it, but it's part of, I suppose, a pressurised environment. It does happen from time to time. You kind of
But it does pass, and you can't be sensitive, I suppose.
No, you
That's
can't. No.
Yeah.
It does pass. And look, I've killed lads for doing stupid stuff and with mistakes on the website, but it's grand. It's forgotten about soon after.
Moves on.
Yeah. Just don't libel anyone. That's the only.
Don't libel anyone. They know all about that.
It's
We've
kinda,
been talking about.
It's not too bad in sports. You have to be kind of more aware of it in the
news.
Yeah. But look, that's I suppose where we are now. I suppose going forward, we're in the process of putting a deal together with Limerick GAA this year. Last year we did all that live streaming free to air. This year now we're setting up a separate Limerick GAA TV. So like all of their club matches, we're going to do a program of 20 club matches for them this summer. We're going to go behind a paywall, subscription paywall. €7.50 a month, and you get exclusive content to the Limerick GAA hurlers, footballers, guaranteed 20 club games over the summer, and that's what we're going to be concentrating on.
You might show them the website there again. So basically, like what Raffaela is doing is they're developing a brand with the different sporting organisations. Like they've got the GAA now. They do Munster rugby. What do you do with soccer? Have you something to do with the stadium here?
Yeah, our parent company owns the Markets Field, which is the stadium that Limerick GAA play in. Again, funnily enough, soccer is kind of a tough one in Limerick. It doesn't the main thing for us that generates the most interest and the most amount of clicks is the GAA. Now again, this is just an example of what a live stream with us looks like. So you'll see that.
Can't win it. Ball still though here for Patterson. If they can get it in their hands, they can get it in their hands. It's a shot on goal, and it's just
you see there that there's you have your
card again.
Clocks.
Looks to be tailing to the right and wide, and on this occasion the strike was good, Matt, but the radar was.
So you'll have one guy in the booth who will be, updating the scores here. There's a software program called Wirecast. So he'll be starting and stopping the clock if the referee says the clock time is off, the time is on. He'll be updating the scores here. He'll be making sure that the sound that goes out is the monitoring of the sound going out is fine. So again, the live streaming part of it has been huge for us. We're also in discussions with the IRFU. I don't know how many of you know rugby, but the All-Ireland League doesn't really get a lot of promotion. RTE hold the rights to it at the moment, but they only show 2 games per year, which is the Bateman Cup final and the All-Ireland League final. So what we've proposed is for 2019-2020 that the IRFU will allow us to live stream games between the Cork and Limerick teams, of which there are 5 in the top division of 10 at the moment. And again, we're in discussions with them, having a meeting with them in April with a view to putting something in place next year that will allow us to do that. And I suppose from our point of view as well, that we're growing at the minute, and we're aware that the brand Sporting Limerick is fine for Limerick, it's fine for this kind of region, but if we want to kind of do events like the All-Ireland League, which have a more national appeal, then it's crucial that we kind of change with it. So we've set up a parent company or a sister company called Stream Sport Ireland. We've secured the domain names, and we have secured the social media handles for Stream Sport Ireland. So what we'd envisage going forward is that any sports outside of the Limerick area would be broadcast on Stream Sport, and any of the local Limerick stuff will still go through Sporting Limerick. So I suppose I'm here as well to kind of say that we, as we are growing in the broadcast side of things, we will be looking for people. You know, at the moment, my title is the editor of Sporting Limerick. I don't think I've written an article in about 3 months, because it's been all kind of the business development side of it. It's been all the kind of setup with the streaming, negotiations, trying to get, you know, when you're trying to get all these kind of organisations over the line to trust you to let you stream their sport or to let you show their product, you know, it's often a really, really slow process. But like I said, we will be looking for people. We're currently looking for people even as it is. So I don't know if any of you are
they could maybe talk to you afterwards to do match reports. Is it basically?
Yeah, just to do match reports, and sometimes it's not necessarily even to do match reports. Like we can, like I said, we don't have too much of a focus on the report. So if we ask somebody, could you go to the, especially if in UL, if UL are playing in the Fitz game or Sigerson game or Ashbourne Cup or any of those competitions, you know, are you able to go to one of those with your phone, get a bit of post-match reaction, send it by WeTransfer to us. You know, that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for.
So kind of talk to people after the match.
Yeah, post-match reaction and video.
Send it in. Yeah. To you. Yeah.
Because like with our match reports, again, there'll be highlights up on so many of them at the moment that it's not really worth your while to do anything.
Well, one of the girls that worked with you last year from this class, Marissa, didn't she?
Yeah, Marissa's now full-time with Pundit Arena. Luke, who you know, is now the editor of Sports Guy with Live 95. So, you know, like people who've worked with us have gone on. John Kyo, who...
Yeah, he's full-time with you, he was here as well, So there are kind of jobs coming through as you grow.
Yeah.
But I know we're talking particularly about sport here, but this is sort of a model that I want to show you, the way jobs are coming up in websites, you know what I mean? Like, okay, this is a sporting website, but like, you need to think outside the box as well from sort of traditional media, I suppose, right? I mean, you made this job for yourself, really, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I just kind of stuck with it. It was like, it's difficult when you're trying to convince, because the board of the company that I'm working for are very kind of, they're old school. It's very hard to convince them of the value of digital and of the value of, I suppose, a lot of the time with digital you're not selling something tangible, you're selling a like, you're selling a click, or you're trying to impress upon some of the importance of the fact that somebody's watching your content. It's not like a normal business transaction where you give somebody something and they give you cash. It's different in that sense. But what we found is that we've got the business to a point now where we've generated enough kind of revenue streams between Limerick GA, between, you know, we're in talks with the Clare Champion at the moment. We also provide the digital content for the Limerick Post. So, you know, we've got
a few business
we've got enough kind of business kind of things going at the moment that ensure that it pays for itself. So now we're kind of on to the next phase, which is to kick on with the broadcasting side of things. Like, have any of you done live streams? Have any of you used the software involved with live streaming?
Have you done that yet? No. Have you done that? No. Yeah, but I suppose in the next 8 weeks, Matt Kelly is going to come out and they're going to do this. Well, all they're going to have to go out and do like reports for a news kind of a whole news package. So they haven't actually gone on to doing that yet. But it's good to show them what the potential is there and what's possible. But I think what's very encouraging about it is that they can equip themselves. If you send me that for a very, you know, reasonable thing. The other thing, would you talk to them a little bit about if they are going to be working as freelancers, the biggest problem starting off the freelancers have is getting paid, and also setting themselves up as a kind of a, like, I know you might want to think you're a business, but maybe talk to them about accountants, and I know this sounds very practical, but
it's practical, it's boring, but unfortunately it's something that has to be done. You know, when you come out of the course, don't undersell yourself. Establish money, you know you.
Cost, yeah. Sorry, yeah, go on, yeah.
Yeah, so like when you come out of the course and you are looking for work, don't undersell yourself. Be confident, and don't go out with the attitude that you're a student anymore. You're not. You're a journalist now, as far as you're concerned. If you go out thinking that you're a student, employers will take advantage of it, and they'll expect you, you know, oh, you don't have a portfolio. Oh, you need to do X amount of articles for us for free before we can pay you. We need to see how good you are. We need to see that. Don't buy that. You know, and that's why I'm saying to you, if you can build up a bit of a portfolio now, do it, because it means that when you finished your time here, you'll be able to hit the ground running. And if they say to you, oh, you need to write something for us, we'll say, look, I've been writing for the last 6 months, I've been writing for the last 12 months, I've produced articles and content for, and immediately you get taken that little bit more seriously because you've shown that you have built up that portfolio. Now, if it's somewhere you really want to work and they say you need to do a few articles for free, then you have to do it. But you know, there is a cut-off point between, you know, how many articles do I write for free and when do I start looking to get paid. So again, 2, maybe 3 articles max. You know, because if you've written 2 or 3 articles for them, they're going to know all they're going to need to know about you in that space of time. If they're asking you to write 4, 5, and 6 articles, they're taking advantage.
Exactly.
Because if you were good enough after 3 articles, then you're good enough to get paid for articles 4, 5, and 6.
That's the cut-off point,
yeah,
isn't it?
I would go with 3. You know, it's your time at the end of the day. You didn't qualify out of the course to go and do charity work. You know,
you have to put a value on your work.
Yeah, absolutely, and don't undersell it. And the other thing as well is, if they do agree to pay you, you will have to ring them to get paid. You will have to bug them, and you have to be persistent. You have to be shameless about ringing them, because if you were a freelancer in any of these organisations, you're going to be the last one to get paid every month, because they'll have to pay their staff, they'll have to pay the staff they have on PRSI, they'll have to pay their full-time employees. So you're at the bottom of that round when it comes to getting paid. All I'll say to you is, stick it out. It's your money. You've produced the articles. You've worked for it. It's your work. Don't be ashamed about ringing them up and giving them a hard time if you have to. You know, it's the only way you'll do it. I remember there was weeks when I would spend more time ringing, chasing money than I would actually writing articles. So again, just be confident in yourselves and don't let that happen to you.
Yeah.
You also need to look at, if you're setting yourself up as freelance as well. You also need to set yourself up as self-employed, as a self-employed journalist or self-employed contractor. You probably have to talk to an accountant. To get an accountant to do your books for the year is about between €300 and €400. It just means that you have that peace of mind every year that you're okay with the tax, you're okay with revenue, and what it also means as well is that, you know, if you set yourself up as self-employed, then any of those bits of equipment that you buy, you can expense them. So, you know,
put them against tax.
You can put them against tax. So basically any of the equipment you buy, you're not really paying for, because you're getting it back off your tax at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So again, it's just about being clever.
And you can claim mileage if you're driving.
Yeah.
Places.
Again, you're entitled to claim the NUJ freelance rate.
Yeah.
For mileage, I think it's 35 cents
a
kilometre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have somebody from the NUJ coming next week who's going to talk to them about the rates they can charge and all of that, just so that they know what value to put on the work. Yeah.
And I know it sounds like, oh God, but it is a part of the work that if you're working for yourself and you're going up there as a freelancer, that you really have to look after. Because what you can do sometimes, I remember I learned a very harsh lesson one day. I got offered a job below in Waterford, and I was at a time when I was really stuck for work, and he said, look, it'll be €65. I thought, geez, €65, grand, yeah, I'll do it. I went down to Waterford IT to cover a hurling match. It took me an hour, 3/4 to drive down. I was there for the match that went to extra time for nearly 2.5 hours. I could get the content afterwards, post-match, edit it below in Waterford and send it in. Took me another hour, and then I was another 2.5 driving home. And by the time I kind of got my diesel and my travel and had a bite to eat, and I was going like, it was my fault because I said I'd do it for 65.
Yeah.
Well, what I should have said is, yeah, look, I get back to you on that, and I should have sat down, calculated my mileage, calculated my time, calculated my lunch, and said, look, Jesus, that's not doable for me.
Yeah, you need 100 anyway,
Yeah.
the cost.
Yeah.
So you need to factor in your travel costs and all of that, yeah.
So
But
again,
I know these might sound really mundane, basic things, but they're very important when you're starting off and trying to make a living. And like €300 might sound a lot to set up to go to an accountant, but that's going to be the best €300 you spend, because he will tell you all these things that you can charge as expenses.
even if you're,
You
let's
can
say,
get some really good apps now, can't you, as well, for self-employed.
Yeah.
You just put them in as you do it. You
if
know?
you're freelance as well, if you're freelance and you're living at home, or you're living on your own, you can claim for the light, for the heat, for the electricity. You can claim for portions of those if your registered office is your home address. So that's another thing you can do. Stuff like car insurance can be claimed back. You can also claim back for like any of your computer expenses, any of your software expenses.
So any of that stuff you buy?
Yeah, any of that stuff you buy. Let's say I have a subscription for Adobe Creative Suite. So all the software I use for work every month, that gets deducted from the bottom line. And you'd find as well that, you know, when you actually look back at it at the end of the year, that all those kind of expenses really help to bring down your tax liability at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So like, again, be shameless. If you're out on a Saturday, save your lunch receipts, because at the end of the year you can send all those in. If you're out on a Sunday and you get a bite of a sandwich out in the present or anywhere you are, keep it, save it, take it home, get yourself a little filing cabinet, put in all your invoices, put in all your quotations, put in all your receipts. At the end of the year you send them off to your accountant and he puts them all together.
Yeah, and it does pay off, because really your tax bill will be almost very low.
Yeah.
But these are practical things that are important, aren't they?
Yeah, and the key is, you know, I know a friend of mine who got into the freelance kind of side of things, and he didn't do this for 2 years, and he left it kind of running, and then got a letter from Revenue one day, because I think he was claiming some benefit for one of his children, and he was asked about, you know, a means test as to, you know, this benefit is means tested, can you show proof of income? He had no tax returns from Revenue for 2 years or 3 years. He had to go pay all his back taxes, pay all these penalties on the back taxes, and pay the interest on the penalties that accrued for 3 years.
Yeah.
So you'll get crucified if it's great if you walk into a PRSI PAYE job straight out of college.
You're
if you
fine.
do that, more power to you, you're fine. But if you're going in as your own, and regardless of how small an amount of money you think you're making for the job, just register anyway. Because if you register from the start, at least you're registered, and it'll be the same cost regardless whether you're making 30,000 a year or you're making 30 quid a year.
Yeah, you just register as self-employed.
Yeah.
And as Ralph said, like that man had to end up all these penalties for whatever he earned. It'll probably just take you a morning to do it, will it? And just even ask your parents, do they know anyone who's an accountant who can help you?
Even if you go on like a website like Tax Assist or any of those kind of tax franchises.
Oh yeah, Tax Assist, yeah.
They'll help you. You just explain to them what it is you're doing. So.
Would you talk maybe just shortly about giving them a bit of advice on, a lot of them, you know, there are interviews coming up on how to maybe best sell themselves at interviews, or say your experience of interviews.
Yeah, well look, we've interviewed people from co-ops. We've had ones that, you know, we've asked, so what do you, the first question I'll always ask is, what do you know about us? So if you don't, or what do you know about Sporting Limerick, or why do you want to work there?
Yeah, if you haven't researched the company.
If you haven't researched the company, you're at nothing. Don't waste your time. Because for me, if somebody hasn't, I have your CV in front of me, so I've gone to the trouble to see what you're about, to see what you're looking at, to see what you want to work in, to see what you studied. If you come in and you haven't bothered to find out what it is that we do, then that's, to me, that's a strikeout straight away.
What else are you looking for? Like, a lot of them now would be doing interviews for, say, like, some of the nationals or some of the radio stations.
Ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas are crucial. if you're going into one of these bigger organisations, they won't have time to go around with you and hold your hand, so you'll have to hit the ground running. So again, proof that you have a portfolio done, proof that you've consistently written a blog, it shows that you've been disciplined, that you've committed to writing every week, that you've committed to working for an employer. You know, obviously if you've done part-time work, references are crucial. You know, you have to prove to them, like I said, that you're ready to hit the ground running, because they won't have time. You know, that your copy is clean, that they don't have to, like if you send in 500 words, they're not going to have to worry about punctuation. Within reason, we all make mistakes. Everybody can make a mistake.
Maybe show them an example of your work. Yeah, that's it. Because really, like I worked on a news desk myself, the longest you have with them is about a minute. I know this sounds really, but if somebody's sending you stuff in, these people are so busy, aren't they?
Yeah.
They'll give you a minute, they look at it and they'll see, can they write, have they got ideas? Yeah, we'll give them an interview. I know that sounds really, you know, but that's the amount, that's the window you have.
You have a really, really short window to make an impression.
Yeah,
you know, and
so you give it your best pitch.
Yeah, and like if you, I have no problem with somebody coming into Sporting Limerick and say, look, I love what you do with such and such a thing, but I think you could do better here, or I think you could work, you know, I think this would be a good idea. Employers, I know from the interview people, I love to hear that, because it shows, number one, that you've looked at what we do, and also shows that you've kind of analysed it critically and said, you know what, I think we might do this, because you know what, that could be something that we're thinking about doing, but we mightn't have the resources, we mightn't have the time, or we mightn't have the manpower to do it. So if you can kind of, people want solutions rather than problems, you know.
Yeah.
So if you can solve problems for an employer, great. If you go in and you need your hand held and you need to be asking, you know, I'm not saying you can't ask questions, but if you need a grasp of the basics and you need to be able to get out there and get it done. You know, even like if sometimes they'll send you to press events where you won't have a clue of the topic that they're talking about. It could be, like I love sport was always my thing, but I got sent to funerals of people who died. I got sent to funerals of people who died. I'd have to hide down at the back of the church, put the microphone out, recording audio in the funerals.
Would this be kind of a big personality?
Yeah.
You have to be very sensitive at funerals.
And then mostly in funerals like that, you'll always ring ahead to make sure that you have permission to do it.
That it's okay with the family.
And it will be okay. But what they'll do is they'll usually put the journalists or the press into like a back room. Usually it's the priest's room, the offertory, where there'll be a speaker, and you'll just literally hold the microphone up to the speaker. Sometimes they don't do that, and you have to actually be in the general congregation, and it's an absolute nightmare. You're just there, you look like such a dick with your microphone out, and you just have to kind of. I refuse to take a microphone to those funerals because the microphone has the big branding on it. So I just literally take out my phone and I just leave it in my pocket and let it record.
Because it's very difficult for the family.
It is very difficult, and you just it's not an easy assignment, but again, it's something you have to do. I remember it was 2 years ago, it was the summer before I left Live 95 FM. I used to start my news shift till 10 AM, and I got a call from Gillian to know could I come in early. There was a road crash, an RTA out in Ula, it was a really bad one. So I said, okay, grand. I drove out there. And when I got out there, it was actually it was a murder-suicide. A guy who had driven his car with his son in it head on into a truck, and I was there going like, oh Jesus. I had to go into the local pub that day with a microphone and ask people in the locality, you know, did they know the guy? You know, you'll get tasks like that you'll be just thrown into. Then you'll get a call from the news editor saying, look, we need a package from you for the 1 o'clock news. Can you phone in? Can you go live? Can you do this? Can you do that? Sometimes like the news environment in situations like that can be really, really tough. But you know, you have to just kind of, you have to get on with it and show that you're willing to kind of get stuck into it. Like you'll find that, like, you know, Gillian was brilliant. The news editors, most of the news editors, when you're in situations like that, they really will have your back and they will help you. But you have to kind of demonstrate that you're willing to go out there and get stuck in. Like, and it's you know, news journalism in that kind of circumstances, I don't think there's a more difficult job.
We had Conor Keane here now last week, and he was talking about, you know, the what do you call it, the death knock or whatever. You have to go to the house and get a photograph and talk to people at the house, which is very difficult, and you have to show sensitivity. But maybe that one you're talking about was difficult, the murder-suicide, because there's, the crash is bad enough, but the fact that it was premeditated and...
it was kind of one of those stories that when you got there at the start of the day, it was an RTA, a road traffic accident, that's all you know. And then throughout the day, as the morning goes on, little bits of information come out bit by bit by bit. And then you kind of know, okay, this was what we thought it was a murder-suicide. But at the same time, you're trying to verify that, you're trying to ensure that it's correct. The only way of trying to find out that it's correct is to just kind of hang around, which again is not the easiest thing in the world. But you'll find as well that when you're working in those situations that like Jimmy Wolf and your colleagues that you kind of hang around with, that you'll kind of all do it together. So there's kind of safety in numbers in that sense, and that you're not thrown in there on your own, going around with your microphone, that everyone will kind of say, look, Jesus, we'll just do it together and get it done once and get it out of the way, rather than having to ask the same people the questions 3 or 4 different times. So again, most of your colleagues that you work with will be helpful in that sense as well. So
okay.
It's tough, but
yeah, that's very good.
rewarding.
Listen, any questions? Or is there anything else you want to say, Ralph?
No, again, like I said to you, just when you're starting off, don't be afraid to push when it comes to getting paid. Back yourselves, really. That's it. The fact that you got through the course and that you've been asked to do content proves that you're good enough to do it, and don't be ashamed to pester them to get your money.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions? Yeah, Holly. Yeah, we'll start first. Yeah.
So when you're starting your freelance work and we're recommended to get an accountant and everything, what timing would you say to start thinking about that?
Well, the tax year for self-assessment, the deadline for your self-assessment is October. So let's say if you finish here when do you finish your exams?
May. May.
So you're kind of qualified, and it runs a year in arrears as well. So you could work from May this year until the end of December this year and not submit those tax returns until the following October. So you've got plenty of time. And again, you'll know yourself, like once you've kind of built up a bit of work and built up some invoices, and just make sure you keep a record of everything. If if whatever your blog is called, set yourself up with a business name, either individually or as your blog. Set up a little, what I do as well as I just go online, find an invoice template. Invoice from, invoice to, your bank details at the bottom, the fact that payment is due within 30 days of whenever you've submitted the work. Just kind of find yourself a standardized quotation, standardized invoice, and again, create a Google Drive folder, put in your invoices for 2018, your invoices for 2019, create a kind of a folio for naming your invoices. So I always do like invoice 18, I know that the year is 18, and then 0001 would be the first invoice of 2018, and then so on and so forth like that. So again, just kind of create a system where you can keep track of your invoices, you can bring them up. I also put like an employer code in the invoice. So if I see 18 LE, I know it's 18 LEDP. If I see 18 LT, I know it's 18 LIT. So have like a 2-letter code for all of the kind of the main people that you're writing for or working for as well. So that's just another thing. Again, keep all your receipts in a little, I just keep them in a jiffy bag in a thing in my office. If it's a fuel receipt, I'll just write diesel on it on a red pen, fire it in there. All your equipment, all your lunches, all that sort of stuff, just collect them really. And you don't need to do anything with them, just keep all your receipts in a little bag, give them to the accountant, he'll categorise them for you. Just make sure that you can also set yourself up with a business account, which is handy too. So if you're with AIB or if you're with Bank of Ireland, just ask them, can you set up a business account? I think the fees are free on a business account for the first 2 years.
That's good.
So you won't pay any fees on it. It just means that you keep your business account separate from your personal account.
Yeah, that's good advice.
They'll give you a business account debit card as well. So it basically means that if you're buying any of your equipment, that you can use your business debit card. It means that the transaction will come out of your business bank account, and again, it just makes it easier for your accountant to track your expenses and track what you spent. So
very good, Aaron.
It's boring and it's tedious, but
yeah, it's worth it to set yourself up. Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, Harry. I'm Aaron from China. And I got a question because we are from Beijing Sport University, and you choose to focus on the sport. So did you notice some difference between the sport media content and some other media content?
Between sports and news, like
Yeah.
I suppose news is more serious. There's like I said, that the hard news kind of aspect of it, like the road traffic accidents, the funerals, court cases. I find that the news side of it is far more pressurized. Like court reporters, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't sleep at night because the
Don't
worry.
frighten them now. I'm bringing them there next week.
The worry of me. I remember I was below in the courthouse in Limerick, and it was the first I had. Everybody was out sick, and they sent me down to the courthouse, and I went down there, and I remember that it was a sexual abuse case, and the guy had been found guilty, and there was a mention about obviously the victims' names were
you can't mention the victim yet.
Were secret or were held, and I remember in the court case that one of the victims was they named the victims in court, but you just can't name them online. And for some reason, I got it into my head that I had sent in the victim's name in the copy of the report that I had filed to the radio station. I don't know if any of you know where Live 95 FM's office is in Limerick. It's on the Dock Road, and I don't know if any of you know where the courthouse is. I ran from the courthouse. I sent it in for the 6 o'clock bulletin, and I sent it, and I was there going, oh Jesus, I'm going to have to ring them at like 5 to 6. If I don't run up there in time, I'm going to have to ring Gillian at 5 to 6, or whoever's there at 5 to 6, and tell them just pull it. So I actually got there in time. There was sweat buckling off me, and I went in, and it was actually okay. I hadn't done it, but I had freaked myself out so much in that space of time running up. Court report, it's not for me. You need a serious and a savage eye for detail. I will say though that your colleagues are probably most important to you in court reporting as they are anywhere else, because you'll see all the court reporters will gather together after every hearing. They'll go up with the barristers, they'll go up and they'll make sure that all the details are correct, names, addresses, all those sorts of charges.
Your best friend is the court chair, the man who sits under the judge.
Yeah. So again,
to make sure that's all right.
Like I said, the court reporters do club together. But yeah, there's massive difference. Again, you have to be careful, because with news reporting, you're an awful lot more likely, just by the nature of the content in itself, to libel someone or to get in trouble. Whereas sports, most of the time, unless you're Ewan McKenna, you're pretty okay.
Okay, good question.
So in your opinion, what extra or special qualities do a sport journalist or reporter they need?
I suppose getting people to trust you really is, and that goes across the board really. It's not really specific to sport, but I think a lot of sports people, most of the sports organisations now have communications departments and have press officers who kind of they cliche the life out of the press conferences. The players, you'll go to a Munster rugby press conference, and you'll see the players outside the door before they come into the briefing, and they'll be getting the spiel from the communications officer as to what they can and can't say, and what to stay away from and what to avoid. I remember one day Jerry Flannery came in and sat down for the press briefing without talking to the communications officer. She came in, she stopped the press briefing, she goes, Jerry, out. She called him out in the middle of the press conference before he got his briefing, and then sent him back in. So, if you can get kind of around that, and if you can build up a good relationship with the press officers of all the sports, or with all the news organisations that you work with, or any of the organisations, if you're working in radio, if you're like in the farming department, or if you're in the agri kind of side of things, make sure that you know all the editors of Farmers Journal, all those magazines, all those kind of PR companies that work for them. Kind of build up those relationships, prove that you can be trusted. And if you're told stuff that's off the record, it's off the record. You'll know as well. Like even I can tell you that if I'm interviewing John Kiley, I'll ring him up and it'll be, well, John, geez, how are things? And he'll chat away, and he'll talk about his personal life, he'll talk about I was doing this the weekend, it wasn't that great, he'll talk about other sports, soccer, and then he'll say, right, so John, we'll do a few few minutes here for the weekend, and then John switches into John Kiley, PR speak cliche mode, and he'll tell you absolutely nothing. And then at the interview, the end of the interview, you go, "Geez, John, that was great. Thanks a million for your time." And you go, "Jesus, Tipperary were terrible at the weekend." And you're like, going, but that's all off the record. And sometimes, if you're trying to build a relationship with somebody like that you're working with, those kind of 5 minutes that you're talking with them off the record are as important as the 5 minutes you spend talking with them when you're on the record. Because you can have the chat with them, they can tell you stuff off the record, they know it won't appear in the paper the following day or it won't appear anywhere else. And again, it just proves that you can kind of build that relationship and that you can be trusted. So again, as soon as your interview is finished, don't think it ends there. You've got another kind of a minute afterwards, or a minute or two afterwards, when you can just have general chat, and it helps to build that relationship as well going forward.
Yeah. Your advice on off the record is not to break that, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Most
Absolutely.
people say that.
Yeah.
Why do you tell them why?
Well, you'll never again get an interview. You'll never again.
You lose.
Yeah.
You might get one glory story, but that's the end of it.
It's not worth it. Like we got. I remember for that DVD that we did, for that documentary we did, it was the only thing that John had a problem with. One of the Limerick players in the documentary said that he was describing a challenge in the match where he said, "Geez, that Galway lad got put in his arse." And John rang me and said, "Look, I don't want that in the documentary, because the first thing that will happen if we play Galway next year is that somebody's going to come over, put what's his name up in his arse and say, 'I saw what you said in the DVD.'" So again, what he said is he didn't want us to give Galway or to give any other one that they'd be playing next year pin-up material, so stuff that they could pin up in the dressing room and say, "Limerick said this about us last year." So again, I had to take all that stuff out of the final edit of the DVD. We had some lovely footage of the dressing room afterwards, but if you look, you won't see it, but there was, inside the dressing rooms in Croke Park, there was all these kind of puck-out strategies up on the wall, about where they'd puck out who they'd get to move, of all the kind of the set plays and the movements. And of course we just shot, thought nothing of them. All that stuff had to come out. So all the dressing room footage, if you look at it, it looks like it was really badly cropped, but we had to crop it to kind of get rid of all that stuff.
So that was their own secret strategy.
So again, that would have made great viewing if we were able to leave it there, but we couldn't.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah. None of the sports ones. About 2 or 3 years in sport, haven't we?
Why did Limerick agree to do the weekly press briefings with you?
The reason they did really was that I suppose, look, if you're John Kiley and you're heading into championship week, would you rather take 20 phone calls from the nationals and the locals answering the same questions, or would you like to turn up to the Gaelic grounds, sit down for 20 minutes and get the whole lot done in one go?
Yeah, just explain that to them, what Patrick is asking. And would you give all that then to the other reporters?
Well, it was an open press conference, so anybody could turn up.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so the nationals would come down, and then like he would just basically say, "Look, the press conference is on Tuesday night out in the Gaelic grounds at 8 o'clock. Whoever wants to turn up to get their content, turn up, but I won't be answering the phone for the rest of the week. I'm concentrating on the hurling." So that's
and you organise that then?
Yeah.
You're very good. Yes, yep.
Yeah. I have a question, because you almost like build the whole page from zero, no? Like, how did you get the funds and everything? I guess maybe with advertising, but I don't know, like how you can like grow and get like all the material from zero.
Yeah, I suppose, look, geez, that's really, I suppose we found that the All Ireland, when Limerick won that All Ireland this year, we got like that we put out clips of the footage we got in the bus, and our Twitter followers doubled overnight. Our Facebook followers jumped 5,000 or 6,000 in a couple of days. So it was kind of like a few big events like that helped us, get massive jumps in subscribers. The post-match content from Munster Rugby as well is really, really good, especially if it's a Heineken Cup game, because you have French teams in it, English teams, so that generates a lot of interest. But it's just, building it from scratch is just really persistence.
No, do you mean, how do you build it with content, or are you talking about how did they physically build the website?
In general, because you say like they have no presence at all in social media.
No.
So like, how you can get like a brand. Brand,
And
content.
grow it, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Content is basically
Content.
it. Yeah. So it's a very slow process. It takes a lot of time. We did advertise. We did do so with some of our. If we do a really good video post or content that we think will, people will like, we'll put money behind it on Facebook. We'll get it out in front of as many people as possible. And we'll do the same with Twitter. We'll do sponsored posts on Twitter, sponsored posts on Facebook. There's a guy
They
there.
link back then, is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
that's
So,
good. That's good advice.
and again, with those posts, we can target the geographical area. We can target the age profile. We can target all those sort of things. So we have a budget every week for Facebook and for Twitter that we can spend on across the different ads.
domains. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, Federica.
What would the main source of income be for the website? Is it views, ads, clicks?
At the moment, I suppose we kind of get flat fees. So in other words, Limerick GA have agreed to pay us to live stream their championships this year. So we've come to an agreement whereby they'll cover our costs. We're going to set up a subscription platform, and the subscription platform will be divided between the two of us. So again, they paid us for the DVD. They paid us for some of the per match for the matches we did last year. So again, that's kind of helped us to break even. The focus for this year now, last year was the first year that we really started to do the broadcasting side of things. So in order for us to have a product to sell, we had to show that people wanted to watch it. So last year we kind of had to just take the hit financially, go out, broadcast for a year, build up our numbers, and now this year we have something to go to an advertiser with and say, look, here's the numbers we did last year, we're doing the same amount of games this year, what can we do?
Yeah, I suppose it's like anyone setting up a business. Your first year you have to show, but like it's basically it's the sporting organisations who pay you.
Yeah.
So they have the Gaelic football one, and do you do anything with Munster Rugby? Do they pay you to do anything there?
No, we don't. Again, like I said, we're looking to do the deal with the IRFU and the AIL.
Yes, yeah.
And you see, different organisations will want different things. So Limerick GA want us to produce the content for them, but they want to put the content through their own channels. The IRFU might want us to do like an RTE, who would just take the content, broadcast it on our channels, pay them for it, and then we could take the advertising revenue. So each organisation will want something different. It's not a one size fits all when you're looking at kind of putting in agreements like that.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, over here, yeah.
Sometimes, in the season, it's not always super exciting and there's a lull. What do you guys usually do, or what content do you push out when interest kind of drops a little?
Okay, so I'll just give you the example of the GA. So in April is club month. So
yes.
The National League is finished, and there's club action for April. So we know that we'll have we'll have 8 club games in April. So we'll broadcast those 8 club games. So that'll take care of our paid or exclusive content for April. Then May is the start of the championship. So now we have the exclusive content from Limerick GAA for May and up to the kind of first week of June. That means if Limerick get out of there, they get out of the Munster Championship and progress into the summer, we can kind of make plans around having that content in July, August and September. There's also Munster Rugby. So Munster Rugby and the GAA season kind of run hand in hand. And there's the League of Ireland as well. So there's kind of always, it mightn't be the same sport all year round, but there's always some sport that's kind of in a busy time or a busy period. So there isn't really too many drop-off points during the year. December can be actually quiet because the GAA is finished, soccer is on a break, the League of Ireland soccer anyway, junior soccer is on a break. The only thing that really runs over the Christmas is rugby.
Yeah.
And then it's weird, January is nuts because you've got all the Fitzgibbon, the Sigurdsson, all the colleges games, the National League starts up. So January is actually one of the craziest months, and you kind of go from being really quiet in December to manic in January.
Okay, we might take just a final question or one or two. Yeah, Mark, go on.
When you're going to pitch afterwards for them post-match, the videos and things like that, is there ever any bother in terms of managers not to speak? Because I know myself, if I was going to talk to a trainer after a race in the huddle, sometimes he'll say things off the record. Or he'll give you the line that you want, but then we'll say like John Kiley tip or crap to the even. Is there ever any kind of hassle there? Because you're kind of taking away kind of the privacy you have as a journalist with a reporter or journalist with the interviewee. He can tell you something off the record midway through it, but if you're recording it, sometimes maybe.
Yeah, usually most of them won't. Once you have the microphone out and you're recording, 99% of the time they'll go into media mode and they'll say the cliche thing, they'll say the right thing, and they'll you just say, oh listen, sound for that, thanks a million. You turn off the mic and that's it. Very seldom they'll very seldom slip and tell you something like that off the record in an interview or mid interview. Because they have to assume they also have to assume that you're live streaming that might necessarily be recorded to be sent on.
Because they don't mind that in the sense that they
No.
don't mind.
No. The only kind of the only thing that can be a bit dodgy, or not dodgy, a harder one is that it's great interviewing a manager after you've won. Maybe not so great interviewing them after they've lost. But again, that's kind of. That's something you have to kind of get on with and do as well,
Be sensitive a bit.
Most of them, to be honest with you, if you've been fair in your reporting with them over the summer, and if you haven't, all the guys that write for me, I don't want somebody who's just going to go in there, sit down and slate, because most of the time you don't know the work that these guys put in behind the scenes, you don't know the work and the hours that the managers put in. It's very easy to sit down and say, hey, fella, this guy's useless, or he wasn't worth his position, and this, that, and the other. So if the managers and players feel that you've been fair to them, and you don't have to sugarcoat it, but if you've been fair to them during the year, they'll always talk to you. If they feel that you've kind of been unnecessary, or that you've kind of taken legs from out from underneath them, then you can expect that back in return. So it's just a case of being fair.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? That's it, is it? Okay, listen, I'd like to thank you really, Raffaela, for coming and giving them good advice on it. So I'd like you to give them a word of applause.